The NBA trade deadline is officially over, and I'm in my PJs. Welcome back to the Green Beans Go channel. It's your host, me, and I'll give the last day of the NBA deadline a C, a 7 out of 10. There were a couple exciting moves, but really it feels like a bunch of teams just trading pawns. We're still going to talk about it though, so let's do it. To make this easy, we're only going to be talking about the trades that occurred today, the last day of the deadline, February 8th. We'll start with this Raptors trade, trading for Kelly Olynyk. I think the Raptors do get a piece in Kelly Olynyk that maybe can replace-ish what Pascal Siakam was able to do with, a power forward. But overall, Kelly Olynyk is not Pascal Siakam, guys. I'm not saying that. But overall, Otto Porter's been doing nothing. Kira Lewis Jr., they do give up a first-round pick for him. So is that worth it long-term? I don't know. This one's pretty lame, but I guess Raptors win short-term, maybe Jazz win long-term. The Sixers made a couple of moves today, one of which was giving Daniel House to the Pistons for a 2028 second-round pick, so they will not reap the rewards of that for another 4 years. They did give up a second-round pick for this year and some cash. This was mainly a move to clear space in the salary cap. Not interesting. One of the bigger moves of the day was the Thunder acquiring Gordon Hayward, and a couple of comments. My diehard Oklahoma City Thunder fan friend was not too impressed, and he was actually curious at what Sam Presti was doing with this move. I think what I see in this move is most definitely a win now, playoff push. Let's contend in the West immediately, because I don't know how much tread the tires of Gordon Hayward have left. I can't see Gordon Hayward staying with the Thunder past 2026, even playing in the league much longer than that. However, outside of Trey Mann, I don't think they give up too many pieces that are actually contributing. And because of the crazy amount of draft picks that the Thunder have acquired over the last half decade, I think they can probably spare a few picks. So I'm on board as long as Gordon Hayward can stay healthy and play his role for this team. I think the Thunder win this one. This one to me is right down the middle. I am a big fan of Daniel Gafford's game, and I think he works well with the Mavs. When you think about the Mavs big men, nobody comes to mind. And not that Daniel Gafford is going to be a guy that jumps off the page at you, but he's going to be a guy that fits in well with this team and can play a specific role, and one that does not involve him having the ball in his hands for a majority of the possessions. He can go in there, he can get rebounds, he can play defense, and he can be a guy who can get you 10 to 15 points a game. So I think the Mavs did well by this trade to pick up Daniel Gafford, but also I think the Wizards getting Richaun Holmes, who's still fairly young, and a first-round pick could help a sinking ship, I guess. Richaun Holmes is 30, so fairly young, maybe a stretch. One of the biggest trades in terms of pieces moved and also maybe the caliber of players was the Knicks getting Alec Burks and Bojan Bogdanovic. They give up quite a lot. They give the Pistons Evan Fournier, Malachi Flynn, Quentin Grimes, Ryan Arcidiacono, 2 future second-round picks, and some cash. So a lot of pieces that I don't know if the Pistons need, a lot of irrelevant pieces in today's NBA game, no offense. Evan Fournier hasn't been relevant for a while. Malachi Flynn hasn't been relevant since college. Quentin Grimes is a contributor and may fit into this Pistons offense. And Ryan Arcidiacono has not been mentioned out of my mouth since Villanova. I love Bogdanovic in Indiana, but I don't think Detroit was a spot for him. But I think with Jalen Brunson up top and Julius Randle down low, Bogdanovic is going to have 2 important pieces that he can work in and out of all day long, and I think that's going to be big for the Knicks. So Alec Burks will be a bench guy most likely, and that'll be a good piece that can score off the bench for the Knicks. So watch out for the Knicks in the East. Maybe. I still don't think it's going to be enough to make an actual run at the finals, but these are 2 pieces that certainly push them deeper into the playoffs. 3 years ago, I think this trade would have been a splash, but right now it just seems bizarre. When I first got this alert today, it was just Dinwiddie for Schroeder, and I was like, what are we doing here? We're just trading the same guy back and forth. And now that Thaddeus Young is included, I don't know. This is such a weird, I'm just going to read this. The Brooklyn Nets acquired Dennis Schroeder and Thaddeus Young in a deal with the Raptors. And then after the Raptors acquired Dinwiddie, they immediately waived him. So I don't if this is just a cap space deal for the Raptors, if they're just trying to send guys off that are I don't know. This one's weird. I guess good for the Nets. Thaddeus Young, has he been with the Net? I feel like he's been with it. I feel like he's been everywhere. So this one could have been big news again 3 years ago, but right now it just Ugh. While I was a big fan of the Daniel Gafford edition, this one, I don't know. I don't. The Mavs must see something in PJ Washington that I don't see at this very moment. His stats this year have not been great, and I know he's been playing for the Hornets, so that may be a piece of it. And I knew a change of scenery may do wonders. But the Mavericks give up decent pieces that are contributing to their team. Okay, Grant Williams and Seth Curry both get minutes, and they're also giving a first-round pickup. So this feels heavy. This feels like a lot to give up for a guy who has not produced this year. I feel like PJ Washington was in a buy low spot with his performance in 2023, 2024, and so they could have given up less. Obviously, the Hornets didn't agree to it, but I like the Gafford deal, but this one feels a little steep for the Mavericks. A bit of a quiet trade to a Western Conference contender is Royce O'Neal going to the Suns. And again, this is a team that does not need scorers in the Suns. So if Royce O'Neal is quite literally a 3-and-D player, as it says here, he's just going to shoot and guard people, then I think this could be a big win for the Phoenix Suns. And what do they give up? They give up, this one's kind of weird also because it was a 3-way trade. They also get David Roddy from the Grizzlies, and the Grizzlies get a future pick swap and Watanabe from the Suns, who wasn't really doing much for Phoenix. The Nets receive 3 future second-round picks and some salaries that are to be determined. So I do think this is a win for the Suns, and I think Royce O'Neal will fit well into this offense. So, yeah, to be determined, but I think positive impact for Phoenix. One of the most bizarre trades of the day that happened around noon and then got reassessed around 3 was the Sixers, the Pacers, and the Spurs. So I may read a lot of this just because it's so confusing. The Sixers went out and got Buddy Hield from the Pacers, which I have not been impressed with Buddy Hield, so I don't think that's a big loss to the Pacers. He's not doing what he set out to do, which is just shoot the 3 and be a weapon in scoring. He only has a few games over 20 points in the last few months. And the Pacers got Korkmaz, and they got Marcus Morris, and they got 2 second-round picks. So that felt pretty solid for the Pacers, I thought anyway. Then the Pacers went out and picked up Doug McDermott from the Spurs. He comes back to Indiana, having played in Indiana for a spell, and they waived Korkmaz. Then they turn around and give Marcus Morris to the Spurs, and they get cash for him, I believe. So absolutely more confusing than it feels like it needs to be. Sixers get Buddy Hield. Pacers get Korkmaz and McDermott, but they waive Korkmaz. They get a second-round pick, another second-round pick in cash. Then they send Marcus Morris, who they got from the Sixers, onto the Spurs for that cash, and somehow a second-round pick also lands with the Spurs and more cash with the Spurs. I don't know. I don't think this is huge for the Sixers. I can't think of a guy they have on their team that just shoots the 3, and maybe this is the piece that they are needing for that role. As for the Pacers, McDermott can be a good bench guy for this team. He's familiar with the culture. He's familiar with potentially some players even. Maybe there's some roster cross. Maybe Miles is the only guy he ever played with. And I don't think Buddy Hield was really giving the Pacers all that much in the way of production as of late. So overall win, I think, for the Pacers. I may be biased, though. We'll see. I think the Pat Beverly trade is a net positive for the Bucks. You get to see Doc Rivers and Patrick Beverly reunited as they were with the Clippers a few years ago. I think his defense is something that this team needs, one of the worst defenses in the league with the Bucks. So Cameron Payne, I don't think is a big loss, a second-round pick. It is what it is. If they are trying to win now, which I got to think they are since they went after Dame in the offseason, this is a win for the Milwaukee Bucks. In the last trade that matters, again, Pacers are making a lot of moves today. They got Corey Joseph, who had been a former Pacer. He was with the Warriors. And what's funny is the Warriors played the Pacers tonight. I thought he was just going to put on one of his old jerseys and get out there for the Pacers. It didn't happen. You know why? Because the Pacers immediately waived him. So it just, whatever. I was kind of excited about Corey Joseph, but he doesn't seem to be playing a game for the Indianapolis Pacers. The Warriors get a second-round pick in cash for him. It is what it is, but I think they are set at the point guard position. They got TJ McConnell on the bench, and he's doing what he needs to do. So a little bit of hope that was just dashed in about 50 minutes. This is the outro.